and I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Allison Boland. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions, and I am here in Rochester, New York. I'm the Syracuse admissions recruiter. So for any of you, if any of you happen to be from the Syracuse area, I'll be seeing you on the road here shortly. So again, Katie Kostis, our Director of Financial Aid at Niagara University. Thank you all for joining us, and I'll let you get going, Katie.
All right, thanks, Allison. I was saying good afternoon, but really evening. So good evening. As Allison said, my name is Katie Kostis. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Niagara. What we're going to go over today is an overview of the financial aid process, the FAFSA form, what some terms mean, what to expect as you go forward in the process. I am going through it as if you are or your student is a senior in college, or no, in high school, going to be a freshman next year for fall of 23. If you are a junior right now, you will actually, your FAFSA will be for the following year, and it's actually going to be a bit different than what the current FAFSA is. It's actually being changed. So I highly definitely stay around for this because the basic information is staying the same, but the actual form is changing. So definitely for this time next year, be sure to hop on another one, and we'll be going over all the new things for that year. But for the seniors in the room, we are going to go over that in detail. I'm sharing my PowerPoint and going along. So as Allison said earlier, if you have any questions as we go, and I'll be happy to answer any of those. And if there's anything I don't cover, that you still need to know. All right, hang on one second. I'm going to share. Can you allow me to share?
Oh gosh, yes. I will make you the co-host.
Okay.
And hopefully that works.
I think that works. Yes.
Yay.
See it?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So my contact information, if you need to get a hold of me, best way is probably email. That's actually our main number for financial aid, but any one of my team members can help you with any questions you want to go over. And I think I have it at the end too. All right, so for U.S. citizens, you do have to be a U.S. citizen in order to file the FAFSA form, or an eligible non-citizen like a permanent resident or something like that. Really, the FAFSA is kind of their starting point for any really most aid, except your like potential merit scholarships from the colleges you're applying to. Pretty much anything up and beyond that merit scholarship, you're going to need to complete the FAFSA form for. Now, in order to complete the FAFSA, there's some things you have to create. You do have to have an FSA ID. This is for the student and also for at least one parent. The website there is where you'll go to actually sign up. You can do that now. You can sign up for an FSA ID anytime. Pretty quick. It only takes a few minutes to complete. Be sure to use separate email addresses as you are creating this for the parent and then for the student. Not use the same one, otherwise it kind of messes things up. But you can do this now, and then you'll have it ready to go for when you do complete the FAFSA form. And FSA ID is really more of like an electronic signature for the FAFSA, for loan, like master promissory notes, entrance counseling, Parent Plus loan applications, anything federal, you're going to need to have that FSA ID. So then after you have your FSA ID, you can start to work on the FAFSA. Now the FAFSA will open up for the 23-24 year on October 1st. Now you'll notice on the screen, it still says 22-23. The Department of Education has not yet released all of these worksheets for 23-24. Unfortunately, they tend to do it like 2 days before it opens up on October 1st. So we're a little early for that. So I'm just showing you what it currently says for 22-23. It's pretty much the same thing, just where it says like 2020 taxes, just know you're going to need 2021 taxes. So everything really is online. The worksheet we're going over right now is just really to kind of help guide you for things that you're going to have to get ready for in order to complete the FAFSA. You won't send any paper things in. It's all electronic. It is the student's FAFSA. So it's going to start by asking out for the student's information. So they will need their social security number. Please make sure you're using the correct social security number when completing the FAFSA form and also creating your FSA ID. Sometimes we see parents who kind of mix up a combination of their own and their students or siblings. It can get really messy. So make sure you're using the actual correct SSN for everyone involved. Say whether the student's a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and then the student's marital status, most cases coming out of high school, they're single, of course. Also going to ask some information about the highest school completed for parent 1 and parent 2. Please note it doesn't say mother, father, it says parent 1, parent 2. So be sure you're being consistent wherever you report, whoever you say parent 1 is, please be consistent all the way through the form. So, parent 1 income lines up with whoever you report as parent 1 and, continues down the line. And then it's going to start asking questions to determine if the student is a dependent student or an independent student. And this is to determine whether or not the student will have to provide parental information. 9 times out of 10, the student is going to be considered a dependent student, meaning that they will have to provide some type of parental information. If they're able to say yes to any one of these questions that you can see on the screen, they will be considered independent. Just know that for some of them, specifically like legal guardianship or foster care, something like that, the student most likely will provide some additional documentation to the schools that they're applying to, as unfortunately, it's one of those questions that students get wrong a lot. So we just need to follow up and make sure that everything was completed correctly. But most likely, like I said, 9 times out of 10, student coming out of high school is going to be considered dependent and will need to provide parental information. So if this is the case, you then have to figure out which parents you're putting down for information. If parents are married or unmarried but living together, you report both parents and that's on both of their incomes. If parents are divorced, then you're going to report whoever the student lives with more than 50% of the time during the prior 12 months. So if for some reason it is 50-50, legal documentation or something, because there's 365 days in a year, so really technically can't be 50-50, but if you have something that says it's supposed to be split, then you will go with whichever parent provides the most financial support. So this could, typically, yes, means the one with the higher income, but, if one parent has the students on their health insurance, that counts as, financial support that's being provided. So you really have to decide, if it comes down to that, which parent is the correct one to report. You decide which parents, information you're putting down. You will then put down, social security number, date of birth, those types of things for parent 1, parent 2, if necessary. And then they're going to start asking you information about taxes. So it's, again, I know this is 2020, but for the 23-24 FAFSA, which is what you'll be filling out if you're entering in fall of 23, it would be based off of 2021 taxes. So hopefully by now you already have those completed, and you'll be able to say whether you completed it or you're still maybe have an extension, whatever the case might be. And I think in the next slide we'll talk about it, I'll mention it here, is you will also be shown an option for the data retrieval tool. What this is that it takes the information directly that's already on file with the IRS and moves it into the FAFSA form. We highly encourage you to do this while you're in there, because it will provide us with the most accurate information. And it really reduces the chances of 1, getting selected for the verification process by the government, and 2, putting inaccurate information. So make sure that if you are able to, you do use the data retrieval tool. There are a few instances where you're not able to. If you file married filing separately, you can't do it, unfortunately. You have to put it in manually. Or if there's been like a data, identity theft, you can't use that as well. But for most cases, you should be able to use the data retrieval tool. And if you use the data retrieval tool, it will automatically bring over the adjusted gross income, taxes paid, education credits, things like that. You will still have to manually put in the individual wages. That'd be from your W-2 forms from 2021. And within the FAFSA, it gives you exactly what lines to use. And then once you have all that information in, one thing to note as well is if you are using the data retrieval tool, it will actually gray out the information that comes over. You won't be able to see it. It is for privacy and protection requirements. So it will gray it out, but just know that on our end and the financial aid offices, we can see that information. So you won't be able to see it. Just know that it's coming over correctly. So you won't be able to change anything, but then it goes directly to the financial aid offices. We'll also ask if anyone in the household in either 2021 or 2022 received or receives Medicaid, SSI, free reduced lunch, SNAP benefits, anything like that. Or then we'll go on and say, Did you pay anything in child support? Did you receive anything in child support? Did you put any money into your 401k for that year? Not the total amount of the 401k, but whatever you moved over, put in on your W-2 forms, those types of things. A good chunk of these, there's nothing to answer, but if you do fall into one of those categories, you just put that amount in and continue on. There's a lot of skip logic involved, so you might not have to answer every single question that's presented. At the very end of that, we'll also ask you potentially some information about your assets. Again, because of the skip logic involved, depending upon how, what your income is and how you answered some of the other questions, you might not have to provide asset information. But if you do, I'm going to ask for these three things. Please note that even though the tax information is from 2021, the asset information is going to be based on current year information. It's pretty much as of the day you're filing the FAFSA. Do you have, what's in your cash, your savings and checking accounts, net worth of other investments, like stocks and bonds? Again, not your 401k, but stocks and bonds other than that. And if you have a business or investment firm, the net worth of those things. So just have that in mind, get that information ready to go for when you sit down to do the FAFSA, so it's all ready. And you can kind of just do it in one sitting. Complete the information about the parent section. It's going to go right into the student section about their income. So if the student didn't work or didn't file, pretty easy, just say no and move on. If they did work or if they filed taxes, you would put that information on here. Again, if they filed taxes, you can use the data retrieval tool. That's not a problem. And then again, same thing, it's pretty much asking all the same questions that they did for the parents, just now from the student's point of view. Most times students won't have any of the untaxed information, income information, unless they're maybe an independent student. But again, just know that they will be asked that. And same thing with the assets, depending upon the questions earlier, how those were answered and their income, they may or may not be asked about asset questions as well. So that's like the main information you're going to have to put into the FAFSA. Again, 2021 tax information, current year as of the day you're filing the FAFSA, asset information. It'll ask you how many are in the household, how many are in college at the same time, not including parents. So if you have any, two students at one time, you'd put that on there as well. So when you have all that together, have it all ready, you're going to go to studentaid.gov. That's where you go for really all federal things these days. Studentaid.gov to actually start the FAFSA form. If you've been there before, you could be a returning user and go to log in. If you've never been there, just go to start here. And then it will ask you, okay, are you the student filling it out? Are you the parent filling it out? Or your preparer who's helping them? It doesn't really matter if you say student or parent. It really just is how the questions will be presented to you based upon which one you select, but it's the same questions that will be answered. The data retrieval before, but again, it does open up October 1st. When the FAFSA opens up, you can start doing that. We highly recommend you do the data retrieval tool when completing the FAFSA form, so that again, you have the most accurate and up-to-date information, so that we can give you a financial aid package that is based upon valid information rather than making up estimates and whatnot, and then something being chosen for verification, and then your package might not be correct. So make sure you use those data retrieval tool if you can. Again, it does open up October 1st. Now, you don't have to do it the first day that it opens. We do recommend you have your FAFSA in by Thanksgiving, but know that the first day sometimes gets overloaded and their site kind of like goes a little crazy. So maybe give it a first couple of days for it to open, get the kinks out, and then go back in the next couple of weeks after that and complete the FAFSA. As long as you have it in by Thanksgiving, you're good to go. After you complete the FAFSA form, again, it's all electronic. Whatever email the student put in there is their contact information. They will get an emailed SAR report, student aid report. We use lots and lots of acronyms in financial aid. They will get a copy of this. It really is just kind of say every single question they answered, it'll tell you what they answered. So you just review it, make sure everything was correct. You didn't add an extra zero somewhere. If you do have to correct something, not a problem. Just let it process, give it about a week to process, and then go back in and make any corrections that you need. But student aid report, again, will list everything you answered. It will also give you what your expected family contribution is, so it's EFC. You'll see that over here. The contribution EFC, it'll tell you what that number is after it processes. It'll tell you if you're selected for verification. That's a little star if you're selected for that. You have a C code, that means something's wrong. So the school will be contacting you to correct that, whatever might be wrong. So just, kind of know what those things are. But again, the student will be emailed this based upon whatever email was provided. In the FAFSA, you can list up to 10 schools on the FAFSA form, and the FAFSA will be sent to those 10 schools. If you need to put more than 10, that's okay. What you do is you list, top 10, let it process, give it the week to process, go back in, take some off, and put some others back on, or add them on. Just know to keep track of which ones you're taking off and which ones you're putting on. Because if one of the ones you took off is the one you end up going to, that school is no longer getting any updates. So make sure you keep track of what you're taking off and putting back on. Each school will receive the FAFSA electronically within about 3 to 5 business days. Might take a little bit longer during the peak, that first month of October as things are, really cranking up. About 3 to 5 business days, we'll get that electronically. Schools cannot put together a financial aid package for you until you've been officially accepted. Now you can do your FAFSA even before you're accepted. That's not a problem. Please do. Please get it done, and then. But just know that until you're accepted at a school, we cannot put together your financial aid offer and send that out to you. So you might see a range of when you start to receive financial aid offer letters. It could be some November, December. Here at NU, we send ours out in early January, right after Christmas break. And then others might not get until February, March. Some state schools don't send theirs out until March. So it really just depends. So every school is different. If you have questions, you should speak to each school individually. But here at Niagara, we do send ours out in early January. Right. Allison, do we have any questions on the FAFSA stuff?
I have some questions, but they're more Canadian related, so not directly to the FAFSA.
Okay.
Do you want to wait a minute?
Sure.
Okay. We're joining you from Canada. In order to have a student loan approved for use outside of Canada, the university must be approved. Is Niagara approved? If not, is there a form or application? What do I do?
Sure. So I assume you're talking about OSAP. And yes, we are an approved school for OSAP. So you would, once you get, you have to apply through OSAP, they'll give you the forms that we need to fill out, and then you would give those to us and we would complete those, and you would send those back into OSAP. But we are an approved school for OSAP. Was that it? Oh, you're on mute.
They're from British Columbia. Does that?
I believe yes, we have had those forms as well. So we are an approved school for them as well.
Okay, and I will also put your email right in the chat so that they have that, and then they can email you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I would put Jennifer's email, JSG. She's okay. She fills out all those forms.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
That's it so far.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to move on to kind of terminology and other things you're going to see in your financial aid offers and throughout the process. But again, any questions, just throw them in the chat.
Yes.
So we have your cost of attendance, which is COA, and this is going to be a combination of your direct cost. So those are things that are charged directly to you, tuition, fees, books, potentially room and board if you're living on campus, and then your indirect cost, which are things like transportation, personal cost, potentially books and supplies at some schools, room and board if you're not living on campus. So those things that we know you're going to encounter throughout the year, but they're not charged directly on your account, but they are part of your budget or your cost of attendance. So those two things combine to create your cost of attendance. And it does vary widely from college to college because each school is different. So, a cost at Niagara is going to be different at NCCC, as state school versus Harvard, right? So there's a wide variety, but everyone has the same components, whether books, supplies, transportation, personal, tuition fees. Expected family contribution, the EFC. Now, I will note that this is one of the things that will be changing with the FAFSA in the 24-25 year. So we call it EFC now, expected family contribution. It will be changing to Student Aid Index, so SAI. So for any juniors, and then of course returning students, in those years, it will be a different acronym, a different thing. But right now it is the EFC. And it's going to do the same thing when it changes, but the naming and the process is being changed. But what it is the amount a family can reasonably be expected to contribute. It is derived from the FAFSA form. So all that information you put into the FAFSA, number in college, income, assets, all that stuff, goes through the calculations and spits out the EFC. And that's the amount that the federal government believes a family can reasonably be expected to contribute. It does stay the same regardless of college. Again, it doesn't matter how much the college costs, it's going to stay the same as a parent contribution, student contribution, again, from the information you put on the FAFSA. And it is calculated using that formula. Now, this does not necessarily mean that this is what your balance is going to be. So someone might have a 0 EFC, but that does not, depending upon what school you go to, that does not necessarily mean that you will owe $0 to that school. It's really just a standard way for schools to be able to put together financial aid offers to you, so we can treat students fairly in that manner. So just keep that in mind as you go along. Sometimes students will have like a 10,000 EFC and they think that's all they're going to pay, and that would be more, or they might owe less. It just really depends on what other financial aid that the student has been offered. Then we get to financial need. So we take your cost of attendance, those components right made up of that. We reduce away your EFC from the FAFSA, and the remaining number is your financial need. And that means that schools can package you with need-based aid, we'll get to that in a second, up to that amount. Now, federal regulations, we can't go over that amount with certain funds and certain awards. So you are kind of capped at what your financial need is based upon that calculation. So we take all that information and then we start awarding you different types of financial aid. The four main types you're going to see in your financial aid offers: there's scholarships and there's grants. Those are free money. We want those, of course. It's merit scholarships, Pell grants, opportunity grants, maybe some need-based grants from the schools, all those different types of things. So those are things that you do not have to pay back. Then you have your loans. So those are mainly federal loans. You can also take out private loans as well, but these are loans. Loans are considered federal, or are considered financial aid. You do have to pay them back if you decide to take them out. You don't have to take them if you don't want to. They won't be offered to you, but they are considered part of your financial aid offer. Again, they are loans, so they do have to be paid back after graduation. And then also employment. So some schools might have their own employment they offer, or federal work study like we do. We offer a combination of both. This is typically where a student works on campus, 10 hours a week or so, and then they can either get a paycheck or they can defer some of that money onto the remaining balance for the year. Sources of financial aid that these will come from: federal government is the largest one. Again, the FAFSA really drives all of that information. The states have their own financial aid systems. So if you're a New York State resident attending a New York State school, you might be eligible for some state aid that you have to apply for. College and universities have their own, like their merit scholarships, the need-based grants, their endowments, all those types of things. Private source, like the last three are kind of the same. Private sources, civic organizations and churches, employers, kind of like the outside private scholarships that we would call them. You kind of have to find them on your own, apply on your own, and then that money would come to you or to the school and could be added to your financial aid offer. So the federal government, as I said, is the largest source of financial aid. Aid from the federal government from the FAFSA is awarded primarily on the basis of having financial need. So having, need after that calculation is done that I talked about earlier. There are some things like unsubsidized loans that are, regardless of need, but like Pell grants, opportunity grants, work study, subsidized loans, all those types of things are based upon having some type of financial need. You do have to apply every year using the FAFSA form. So every October 1st, it will open up and you can do the FAFSA every year. You do have to do it every year in order for us to determine what your package is going to be for the following years. So common federal aid programs you will see, the federal Pell Grant, probably the largest one. It's been in the news a lot lately with, trying to get to double Pell, which is they're trying to double the amount of Pell Grant. It's increasing slightly. Right now it's just under 7,000 for the year if you have a full Pell Grant. The minimum is like a couple hundred, but it ranges all the way up to almost 7,000. That is based upon your financial contribution. So right now it's tied directly to whatever your EFC is. There's the Teach Grant. This is for students who are potentially going into the education field and meet certain requirements. They could apply for the Teach Grant. The Opportunity Grant, schools have limited supplies of the Opportunity Grant. So unlike the Pell Grant, where if you're eligible, you get it no matter what, the Opportunity Grants, we have a limited amount. So not many students at least Niagara receive an Opportunity Grant. You do have to be Pell Grant eligible in order to get the Opportunity Grant. But it is out there as well. The work study I mentioned earlier, you do have to have financial need for this. You work on campus, 10 hours a week or so, and then you can, use that money to either go towards your balance or as a paycheck. Then you get into the loans. You have your subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Again, these are federal loans. These ones are in the student's name. So the FAFSA is really their application for these loans. Subsidized means it is need-based. So the student has to have financial need in order to get the subsidized portion of the loans during their college years. The subsidized loan, the government pays interest on this loan while the student is in school. So it's the better one to have if you have the option. But sometimes students will just see just unsubsidized loans, and that just means they didn't have enough financial need in their package after everything was said and done. The interest is not paid by the government while you're in school, so it is accruing. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding to take out which loans. And then there's the plus loans. These are parent loans, federal loans in the parent's name that they can take out on behalf of the students to help, go towards their balance. And then we get into the states. So as I said earlier, if you're a New York State resident attending a New York State school, you should apply for the New York State awards. The biggest one of that is TAP, Tuition Assistance Program. This one, that's the largest program, but they have other ones too, based upon some merit scholarships. They have some very specific ones with the state. Again, they have aid based upon need, which is TAP, and then some merit scholarships. It does use information from the FAFSA form. So at the very end of the FAFSA form, when you hit that, after you hit the submit button, and it pops up with like, oh, congratulations, you submitted your FAFSA. One of the lines, they were like, would you like to complete your state application? And I recommend doing that, saying yes, and completing it right then and there. It'll transfer your information right over to your state application. Not every single thing, but majority of it will be transferred. Just finish up the state application and submit that. If you don't do the state application, the TAP application right at that moment, it's okay. But you do have to wait for the FAFSA to process about a week and then go and create your state application. So just keep that in mind for when it gets near the time to complete the FAFSA. Private sources and employers, like I mentioned briefly before, these are things that, not through the state, not through the federal government, not through the schools. Wegmans has scholarships, Community Foundation of Greater Buffalo, of Syracuse, those types of things have scholarships you can apply to. I would suggest start researching those now. A lot of applications will open up in like January and be due in March and April. So you have to keep an eye on those deadlines. We have seen students receive $500 all the way up to like $5,000 sometimes. So they really do help. We try our best, to not take away any other aid. These would be stackable on top of your other aid, as long, depending upon the criteria of the organizations, and as long as you're not over tuition. There's certain things we might have to reduce something for, but we try really hard not to, if it's something you earned and can help towards your balance. A couple other things I wanted to mention before we take more questions. Special conditions and appeals. So if the income or situation has changed since 2021, again, remember the FAFSA for 23-24 is going to be based upon 2021 tax information. Well, still in the midst of a pandemic, there's lots of stuff going on. So you still have to use that information on the FAFSA from 2021. But if something has changed, maybe reduction in income, a loss of the job completely, a divorce, separation, something's not the same, contact the schools you're applying to, and we will be happy to look into it to see if there's anything else we can do. We'll open up what we call professional judgment, special circumstances, to see if maybe we can reduce your financial contribution and get you some additional funding. And then sometimes really nothing has changed, but you're just looking for some additional assistance. You would contact us as well. And then, write up something explaining the situation or what's going on, why you're looking for additional funds. And the school can review that as well. Again, each school is different. I'm just telling you the Niagara's process for this, that, we have an appeals committee that we meet every week once we start getting into the, financial aid packaging in January, February. But each school is different. So you really should check with each school that you're applying to. I wanted to go over the financial aid letter or offer letter worksheet. This is something that we have in one of our handouts, but I suggest, we can send this to you as well. Really, once you start getting those financial aid packages in and offer letters, really from each of the schools, really start comparing them apples to apples. How much is this college charging you in tuition and fees? Are you living on campus? Are you not living on campus? Are there special fees for special majors? Our nursing, our business and theater have additional fees attached to them. So all these things you got to take into account then all the aid you're receiving at each school, loans, work study if you're being offered, and really see what that bottom line is, and then start comparing the cost that way. It's really important to do that, especially if you are starting to appeal to different schools or whatnot and trying to, make that decision. It's really helpful to have this, when you're starting to make that financial decision. All right, that was a lot of information. I get it. Allison, do we have any other questions in the chat?
No, one question about Eagle Experience,
Oh,
which is our Eagle Experience Scholarship, which is basically visit early, apply early, and then you get $5,000 over 4 years. They break it out into $1,250 each year that you attend, if you're accepted, obviously. But if you have additional questions about that, I'm going to throw the Eagle Experience, all the information right in the chat. You can certainly look at that. If you can't make it to campus, if you're from far away, and you go right on this link, it'll tell you what you can sign up for so that, you can do something virtual. So there's a lot of opportunities for that. So that was the only other question that I had in the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. There's our contact information again, my email, kcos@niagara.edu or general@niagara.edu. Feel free to, reach out if you have any questions on that. But I'm going to stop sharing. Man, I got it.
Anybody have any other questions? I know as a parent of 2 in college and 1 who I'm going through the process with now, this is such a great opportunity. And what looks to be so far away, it comes very quickly. And all of a sudden you realize that you haven't really really looked at everything, and you have now this bill that you have to deal with, and loans and all these things. And I will tell you, I have worked at other institutions in the past. I have 2 kids in college at completely different schools. I can tell you that there's nobody more helpful than our office here at Niagara. I have never seen anything like it, and Katie does everything she can, and her team and her staff are incredible. So just so you know, if you have questions, now here they come, Katie, the questions are coming in. But if you do, please ask. Here we are. I'm not going to say who's asking. I'll just ask. I could pretend it's me asking. We visited spring 2021. Am I still eligible for the scholarship you just mentioned? No, you're still eligible, I believe, if you visited spring 2021. I will double check on that. I think you will be. You just need to apply by October 31st. There are some, fine lines there, like you can't be an athlete, things like that. But go to that website and check it out. But I believe if you visited spring 2021 as a junior, you're still eligible. We like the working part to defer some of the costs. Given we are international students, how does this work? Do we need work permits if you want to work on campus, I'm assuming?
So you want to be eligible for work study because it is, the FAFSA and be a federal program, but you should still be eligible for other on-campus employment. You do have to go through the process and get the permit, and I think also maybe apply for a social security number in order to get paid. So there are some additional steps with that. I'm thinking maybe career services, Allison, might be the best people.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like as long as you're working on campus, you're okay, but I don't want to give you some wrong information on that. I just am speaking from past students that I know who worked they were international and worked in the US, and they were able to do that. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Please shoot me an email tomorrow so I can check on that, because I will forget. I'll try, as I have several other questions, but shoot me an email about that on international students. And if I can't answer it, I can connect you with our international counselors. I don't know if you've had connection with them, but I would be happy to help you get connection with an international counselor, and they could answer that for sure. I've done multiple New Step courses. Does the aid I gain from that build with the Eagle Experience Scholarship? Yes, New Step has nothing to do with Eagle Experience. You would still gain your New Step courses, which would be courses you worked towards to gain.
Wondering if they're talking about that the New Step scholarship.
And I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, we'll have to check on that. We're still actually working out all like the details. So I don't know yet if it can be combined with the Eagle. If you're thinking about like the New Step scholarship that they were talking about, that'll be new for this year.
Yeah.
So we will check on that for you because I'm not entirely sure if those are going to be able to be combined.
So again, with that question about New Step and Eagle Experience, my email's in the chat. Feel free to email me, or you're going to begin to get lots and lots of emails from a counselor. I'm not sure. I can't tell who your counselor is. I don't know where you're from. Please ask them. They'll know, especially if they work with New Step schools. They'll know the answer to that and will be able to help you. But don't ever hesitate to reach out to me if you don't know your counselor, and I will certainly connect you. That's super easy. Spring 2022, yes. If you visited then, I do believe it counts towards the Eagle Experience scholarship. Double check. I would just check on the website. I'm trying to look quickly over here on my left, but it doesn't say exactly, but I'm pretty sure that if you visited April, if you were a junior then, you visited then, and now you're getting ready to apply, that it does count towards the Eagle Experience scholarship, which is super helpful. And hey, that's $5,000 off. That's not accruing interest on a loan. Like that just continues to add. So that's a really great opportunity for students. And all you have to do is apply. And I have to tell you, our application process is pretty simple. So just get that in. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, anything else? Anything I didn't touch on that you had questions about or need clarification?
Going back to February count for Eagle Experience, I believe it's anything after that January 1 date. But now you got me questioning everything. I'm going to ask tomorrow. So do me a favor, because I will forget. I have 3 kids and I'm getting really old at this stage. Shoot me an email and just ask. You don't even have to just shoot me an email and say, I'm from the Zoom, blah, blah, blah. And I will ask tomorrow when I'll be on campus tomorrow. I will ask and I will get back to you right away. I believe it does. I think it's anything after January 1 of the previous year. But I could be wrong. So shoot me an email and I will remember to do that. Any other questions? Katie, I think you touched on so many great things, tonight. And like I said, this is the time to ask, because this is when it's time to start planning. And man, does it come quick.
Yeah, a couple more weeks.
Yep, a couple more weeks. We're going to flip over to the new group here. But thank you all for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We really love having our students and parents on. This is information that's going to be super helpful for all of you moving forward. And, a lot of schools don't kind of give you a peek behind the curtains, but Katie always is super helpful with that. Not only for us, but, for other institutions, because this is knowledge for a lot of other schools as well. So, not seeing any more come through the chat. So let's let everyone go on with their Wednesday evening.
No, we do not require the CSS profile.
Yeah, we do not. And boy, are you so lucky we don't, because that is a lot of work. I'm so glad this is helpful. Yes. Thank you so much. And Katie, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And everybody have a great night.